Attention! The Looking Up, Looking Out hosts businesses and services are limited to serving individuals located in their areas and only apply to viewers located in Washington State, Oregon, and North Carolina. Disclaimer: this video discusses health topics in a general sense. This information is not meant to diagnose, treat, cure any condition, or be a replacement for any medical advice. Please seek medical advice from your healthcare provider and medical team. This discussion is strictly for general education only. If you do not live in the Washington State, Oregon, or North Carolina areas, and you have questions about your individual nutrition needs, please contact your local healthcare provider for a referral to see your local registered dietitian. To find out your individual exercise needs, please contact your local exercise specialists. Thank you.
Welcome back to our podcast, the Looking Up, Looking Out podcast, where we look up the information to look out for you. My name is Riley McCorkle, and if you're new to our podcast, I am a dietitian and diabetes educator in Spokane, Washington. I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Talya and Sam. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. My name is Talya Jackson. I'm a personal trainer and health coach, and I am in Winston-Salem. My business is Relife Wellness.
Hi, guys. My name is Samantha. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and a certified exercise physiologist. My business is called Nutri-Cise, and I am located in Tri-Cities, Washington.
Here in our podcast, we, as you may know, we focus on preventative approaches to healthcare. Thanks again for joining us. Today, we are going to dive into home exercise equipment. It is a huge industry. I know certainly in our practices, we work with people who have all sorts of ideas of things that have been perhaps targeted, advertised to their social media feeds or whatnot of the silver bullet piece of equipment that you need for your home to melt belly fat and tone up those quads. So I am curious about so many different pieces of equipment that you guys would recommend or advise against. What is worth its weight in gold? Talya, can I kick it off to you of exercise equipment you've come in contact with for the home?
Yeah. Like you said, it is a huge industry, and it really even exploded further with the pandemic when more people were at home and gyms were closed. I love Facebook Marketplace, and so I see all the time all the pieces of equipment that people buy because they used it maybe once or twice. And they're wanting to get recoup some of that money back. So I want to start off by saying that there's not going to be anything specifically that I don't recommend, just because I look at things so personalized, so customized for each of my clients. So there might be something that they're not ready to do yet. And thus I would say, hey, maybe it's not time right now to purchase a Bowflex or, something really extravagant and big, but to build up to it. The biggest warning that I would say is really know yourself. Are you actually going to use this piece of equipment? This is not shade. This is just real conversation. I have a lot of clients, they don't necessarily want to get a gym membership because they're not comfortable being in the gym, and that's fine. But are you motivated enough to work out at home? Location matters. So I would first advise anyone to really think about what is the location of where you exercise? In college, I sucked at studying at home. I would get distracted. I might start cleaning. I might start eating. I might work for a couple minutes and then I'd be all over the place. But I had to then remove myself. I might go study in one of the department buildings. I might study in the library. So for me, I have to remove myself in order to really lock in. And if you're the kind of person where, you really lock in at home, then home exercise equipment is going to be your bread and butter. If you're somebody that struggles with getting that motivation while you're at home to do things, especially exercise, then I would say, try to think about other ways, other places and ways you can get your workout in. Not everyone's comfortable with the gym. That's fine. There's, sometimes community centers have equipment there. Sometimes churches have equipment. If you work for a corporation, sometimes the corporation might have a gym, whether it's a bank or some sort of larger facility. If you work for EMS, they typically have, whether firefighters, police department, paramedics, they sometimes have gyms. So there's other ways to get creative, but I think location first matters. So that would be my warning to anybody. But we can dive in a little bit more. I don't want to take up the whole time talking, but Sam, what are your thoughts? I can share some of mine a little bit later.
Yeah, thanks, Talya. All those points, they definitely hit home. I would say I agree with you. I mean, I don't think there's particularly recommended equipment. It kind of really depends on what that person's goals are and what they're trying to do. I mean, free weights might be great for them if they're trying to do resistance training, but then if they're trying to do cardio, maybe some sort of like elliptical or treadmill is kind of more what they're looking for because of their goals of trying to be into the more cardio space of exercise. So it kind of just depends on like what that person's individual goals are. Like you said, it's very personalized to what that person is trying to do. Honestly, though, with any exercise equipment, it is the little stuff. It's very appealing at some time, and other times we feel like how busy we are and we actually don't have time for it. So I agree. I think removing yourself from the home space sometimes is more beneficial because you're having to get out and go and exercise. Sometimes we associate like our home with relaxation, and so that motivation is pretty easy to kind of leave us as we, want to be more productive coming home from a long day of work and everything. Needless to say, it is easy. It's quick and easy to have, home equipment to be able to exercise at your own convenience. For an example, I think in the winter times, when there's those winter months snowed in, it's, not as easy to get to the gym as it were to exercise at home if you do have some of that small equipment. So there's definitely pros and cons to it. A lot of the time too, I think people and just the general consumer doesn't think about is, in a sense, what they're able to do, like their abilities. So, for an example, they might be really motivated to get to a certain point, but the progression is a lot slower than we anticipate, and it takes a lot of patience. And so sometimes we find ourselves buying really heavy weights or buying particular equipment that is maybe a little bit more advanced than what we're ready for. And so a lot of the time, I think with the home equipment, the safety aspect of it is missed a lot. And I think that might be sometimes why you might see it on Marketplace. I also look at Facebook Marketplace for, some of that home equipment as well, just to see what's out there. And yeah, I just can't emphasize safety enough just because I feel like, as we've talked about probably extensively on this podcast, like the internet is so vast. You can see any like workout video, personal training, whatever you find based off of YouTube, right? Because there's just so much information. There's social media. There's lots of influencers, athletic influencers out there, and trying to copy some of those exercises. I mean, it's not necessarily tailored to that person. So in the initial time, people probably think, oh, that's a great exercise. It's going to help this. I want to help this and I want to improve this in my body. That should be beneficial for me. But I think the safety of, well, how much weight are we doing? How much weight is that person you're watching doing? And is this beneficial for me? Is it safe for me? Because I might have other limitations or even concerns with my health that I'm not taking into consideration just because I'm watching potentially a video. And I mean, needless to say, I'm not saying, those People on the internet don't know what they're talking about. It's more so, it's not really a one size fits all. And sometimes the content that is pushed out there, it's not necessarily tailored for individual. It's tailored to provide like, hey, look at me. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. These are exercises that might help, but it's not tailored to the person who may be watching it, which I think is important to, just stay safe in all the content that is consumed. But yeah, that's kind of my take on some of this home equipment.
I appreciate this theme of safety that seems like it's emerging, the right tool for the right person at the right time, right? As well as location, finding those avenues like through work and whatnot that or community centers that might have some where you might have access to those supplies without having to necessarily do it all yourself. I'm curious about your advice on enjoyment of exercises. I know folks who I've chatted with might be maintaining a vigorous treadmill program that they've been doing for 9 days. And I was like, oh, do you enjoy it? And they're like, no, it's like the worst thing I've ever done. I can't stand it. I don't look for it. I dread it, but I do it anyway because it's healthy. And then at the same time, they might also talk about how they work in their garden and break a sweat, and they're coming indoors to the treadmill with no sunshine in there instead of being out in their garden doing their exercise. So I don't know, thoughts on what could make it more enjoyable, whether that's doing the treadmill plus watching TV, being on the bike plus your audiobook or podcast. Are there any ways to combat this sort of draw that people have toward the less enjoyable thing is apparently more healthy?
That's enjoyment is such a tricky area when it comes to exercise because honestly, it's not a matter, and I'm not saying this as a cold, heartless person, but as a trainer, it's not my job to make my clients comfortable in the exercise. And I say that to say, no, they should not be writhing in pain. No, they should not be going past the limitations. But exercise is uncomfortable. Exercise is exhausting. It's for us because we just don't move our bodies enough. And so we have to challenge our muscles. We have to challenge our lungs and our heart. So it's just all in all not supposed to be this comfortable experience. If you're looking for that, massage therapy, yoga, stretching, those things are enjoyable and comforting. But what I can say is there are ways to make exercise enjoyable. For some, my clients, they tell me all the time that they hate it here. They hate it here, but they show up because they feel good afterward. So some people are motivated by the fact that they walk away feeling better than when before we even get started. So that for some is a push. They're like, oh, I just feel my brain is clear. I feel like I have energy. I don't feel like I want to hurt anybody. Like I just, they just feel good all around. For some, they love strength training. They love, the weights. They love that push, but they dread cardio. I'm one of those people, other than walking and hiking. But you ask me to run, if you're asking me to run, the only way I'm doing that is if I'm being chased. But there's ways that I make it enjoyable for myself. I love walking my dog. I love hiking. If I'm doing the stationary bike, I have to be doing something because I get bored. Like I crochet while I do that. I read, something to take my mind off the fact that I'm doing it. So it's not enjoyable for me, but I incorporate something enjoyable. Some people like you said, some people like watching TV if they have a walking pad at home, if they're at home a lot. Again, I want to chime in location. If you do have a gym membership, a lot of people do better in group settings. And that's kind of the sense of a trainer. It's not a large group, but you're not by yourself. There's an accountability element, and that makes it more fun. Some of my clients, they enjoy dance fitness. So we hit the weights together and then they get their cardio through dance fitness, Zumba, mixed fit, what is it, turn up. There's all kinds of different formats. So they do it that way. Or they might go and do group exercise, body pump, burn boot camp, all of these other ways to get exercise. So it's really going back to knowing yourself. If you're the type of person where you can just, nose to the grind, you want to be by yourself and do that, then, working out at home, working out at a gym, things like that are going to be your bread and butter because you have that laser focus to be able to do it by yourself. If you struggle with showing up, and you need that accountability, group settings are going to be great. Getting a trainer is going to be great. Somebody that people that are, around you and can see, okay, I have a class, I need to be there, they expect me there, that is good. But I don't necessarily want to say, exercise should be enjoyable. I don't necessarily want to say that either because it should be challenging. Our bodies need that challenge in order to grow, in order to adapt. That's how those adaptations happen. So it's a balance. I always say we shouldn't live in a world of extremes. So this is another example of that. Is there's ways to make it so you can do it and feel motivated, but it shouldn't necessarily be comfortable. Like when you walk out of a dance fitness class, you should feel tired. You should feel, man, I feel exhausted, but you should feel good at the same time. When you finish a strength training workout, you should feel tired, burnt out, but at the same time, you should feel energized and confident and good. Like, oh yeah, I did that. That was really good. So it's a balance for sure to be walked in.
Yeah, most definitely. I think like Talia made some really good points with the group fitness. I think those are really good examples of when exercise can be enjoyable. I mean, we're having a group atmosphere, everybody's cheering each other on, we're learning maybe a routine or particular moves or exercise moves that everybody's enjoying and having a good time because of that kind of community aspect of it. I mean, needless to say, there's people who just like resistance training and all the exercises that go with that, and they're exercising by themselves. So it's very so much kind of dependent on the person. I do think, exercise can be enjoyable depending on what it is. I mean, for an example, like sports, I mean, people enjoy doing sports, all the different kinds of sports, and they, have fun exercising in a great way. And again, it's kind of more so that community team sort of group atmosphere. But like Talia said, I mean, exercise is supposed to be challenging. It's not supposed to feel great sometimes because we are stressing some of the muscle fibers out to get to where we want to be. And so it should feel tiresome and not as pleasant as we would probably like it to. But we got to remember too that we're working on something where we're trying to stay healthy. We're increasing, strength and building muscle and things like that, whatever our exercise goals are, to get to, our goals. And so I think it's kind of a give and take. Like, yes, it's sometimes enjoyable, but sometimes there are those exercises in order to progress us to where we want to be at. May not necessarily be as enjoyable as we would like to, but in the long run, I mean, we do feel great after exercise usually, and we know we worked out amazingly. And if you have the support of a trainer or a professional, you have that constant motivation and support, and that's that guidance to help you make sure you're exercising safely. And even if not in a group exercise setting, too, having everybody be a part of the community and supporting each other, like continue a healthy lifestyle and healthy movement, I think definitely goes a long way. And so my answer would be, I think exercise can be enjoyable. It kind of depends on what activity you're doing, but I mean, exercise is not supposed to be always enjoyable just because we are stressing some of those muscle fibers out to improve our strength and things like that. So I think it's kind of a give and take, but I do think, there is times where we can enjoy exercise.
They say PT doesn't stand for personal training, it stands for pain and torture. um, well, this is a good topic. I'd be curious at a future episode to hear about your thoughts around endorphins and the sort of scenario where like I'll feel really creaky in the morning as I'm jogging out on I don't know if you could quite call it a run, but a saunter, and and my knees will be kind of creaky, And then it's only just a few minutes in there that it actually starts to move smoother. So whether that's some endorphins, some of the natural pain relief chemicals setting in, and to what extent that varies between people is interesting. And I've heard this phrase of motion being lotion, whether the motion itself actually allows us to feel better and kind of overcome some of those creaks. But I'm also curious to ask you guys about body weight exercise. Do we have to pay anything for exercise, or can I get away with being a cheapskate, doing it for free? Can I do body weight exercises like squats, lunges, pushes, rowing on a tree limb or something? Sam, I know you've done a lot of like dance routines previously, even for Kesa and I, and it totally shredded our shoulders and hips and everything. So, do we even need equipment to exercise? How much can we get away with on our own body weight?
Yeah,
So glad you asked this.
that's a great question, Riley.
I tell people this all the time. There are pluses and minuses to body weight exercise. I work with a lot of beginners, and we always start off the groundwork with a lot of form. We do a well-rounded training experience, and whenever I'm working with them, it's easier for us to start with simpler movements. That way we can make those adjustments. They can become more aware of their body. That way, when we progress to bigger movements, more complicated things, heavier lifts, it's always good to do that. And even when they get to that more advanced level, it's still good to do body weight stuff. Because I always tell people this, if you can strap 1,000 pounds on your back, but you can't do a good squat, what's the point? If you can, do a bench press for 500, but you have a trash push-up, what's the point? A lot of I tell people I do a combination of functional and strength training being the more traditional things that you think of when you what comes to your mind, squat, deadlift, row, chest press, shoulder press, blah blah blah. And then functional movements are just everyday movements that are good to help your body on a regular basis. So this is a lot of mobility stuff. This is a lot of flexibility work. This is a lot of balance work, core work. And combining the two, I feel works well for giving my clients a very well-rounded fitness experience. We're hitting hard the strength training where we're working the bigger muscles. We're doing the bigger compound movements. Compound meaning just more so, how do I explain this? Compound, basically just think where you're using more muscle groups than just one specific one. I hope that makes sense. And then in combination to where we're doing some functional training that helps develop your core, that helps work smaller muscles. So they help stabilize your joints. So I say all this to say that body weight isn't a bad thing, but I also want to caution people away from plateaus. And this is what I wanted to mention when it comes to purchasing equipment. And you can buy your equipment I don't want to say there's anything wrong with that. But oftentimes people hit plateaus because they're doing the same kind of exercises. They're pushing the same amount of weight and there's no challenge. Your muscles are like elementary school kids. If you want them to level up, if you want them to graduate and go to the next grade, you need to give them harder tests. But you also can't give a fifth grade test to a kindergartner. They're not going to know what to do. They're not going to understand how to do that. And your muscles are very similar. You want to progressively challenge your muscles. There's a whole theory around progressive overload. It works. I won't get into that, but essentially you want to have progression. Now, when you're working out at home, there are ways to do that. If you don't want to buy weight, you can do this by adding a time element. push as much weight as you can in a certain amount of time. That's another way to challenge your muscles if you're limited with the amount of equipment you have. You can do this by increasing reps. If you are, it's easier for you to do 10 reps at 5 pounds, try to do 15 and 20 so you can get that muscle exhaustion. Muscle failure is what we want. So there's other ways to do it and manipulate the system to get a good workout. And when it comes to body weight, you can reach a plateau point, but anyone that is in the calisthenics world, that there's always a way to challenge and level up, even when you're doing body weight. So I would just encourage anybody, if that's what the route that you want to go, that's fine. But you always need to think, what is the next challenge? What is the next way I can level up?
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, that's so great points and topics that you mentioned, Talya. For my business and even just personally, like Riley mentioned, we've done a dance workout. I'm a dancer. I have a dance background, and so I'm very used to like body weight exercises, kind of the high intensity interval training, and calisthenics. So I definitely see the benefit of body weight exercises. I've honestly done mostly body weight exercises my entire like athletic journey and career as a student athlete. And so I can see how like the benefit of using your body weight to incorporate that strength and build those muscles. But since I've got into this professional space as a exercise physiologist, I think when I ever come across clients who come for me for exercise help, it's usually they are sometimes on the older side. They're really needing to deal with daily activities of daily living. And so it's a lot of the functional training and, in a sense, being able to get up and get from the ground to a standing position, very so much things that we might lose as we get older in prevention of falls, balance exercises, making sure we, in general, just exercise with proper form. And so a lot of the time, even my first initial sessions, like I have a client right now that we're not using a whole lot of equipment just because I want her to have a lot of good structure with great form, focus on the muscles that we're working and use a little bit of equipment, but it's not anything that she can't also do at home because we did do in-person sessions and now we're doing kind of the over the phone virtual remote sessions. And so I'm purposefully not doing a lot of equipment just for the aspects of what her needs are, what we're trying to do, and what her goals are to progress to potentially for an example, getting up off the ground to a standing position in a safe manner. At the same time, strengthening those muscles and things, because sometimes these individuals that we come across, they haven't exercised for a long time, or maybe they have a lot of weight that they didn't initially have before. Maybe they were exercising when they were young. And so having to combat all these challenges and other features and physical limitations, it's definitely kind of like a new ball game with exercise. And so there's definitely good benefits for physical activity with body weight, but also incorporating some of those weights to help challenge as well as benefits as well. So I don't want to be biased. I do love, calisthenics and body weight exercises, but, depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to do, sometimes adding a little bit of equipment in some way also benefits the individual too. So I would say underused exercises sometimes, but at the same time, just with safety and everything, being safe with all of the above of whether it's body weight exercises or not, it's, important to be safe and make sure we have proper form.
Well, I've learned a lot. I wonder if there's any other final sound bites you guys want to send our listeners off with. Otherwise, I can close us out.
Guys, everything is needed. I know people who are heavy in cardio, heavy in weights, heavy in stretching and flexibility. You need all of it. All of the things for a well-rounded fitness experience is just going to benefit your body in so many ways. So you need everything.
Wow, it sounds a lot like well-balanced nutrition.
100%. Yeah, making sure. 100% making sure, we try to get all the major muscle groups incorporating safety, definitely have a support system, whether it's community or a personal trainer, definitely make sure we're, utilizing those great resources to provide the safety that we need to incorporate these healthy lifestyle changes.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for joining us today. If there are any other topics you want our expert opinion on, want us to research, or have any questions about, please leave a comment, like, or subscribe for more great content. If you live in Washington, Oregon, or North Carolina and are interested in working with any of us personally, the links to our businesses are in the description below. We will keep looking up the health information to look out for you. See you next time.